It's a little bit later this morning. Now I'd like to introduce to you the person who's working with Power to the People. It's a little bit later this morning. Now I'd like to introduce to you the person who's working with Power to the People. Somebody who's been working since 1972 in the health field. This is an organization which is since I was one of the fierce opponents of everything which has been unjust in the health. Trueman Tuck, Mr. Trueman Tuck.
Got to make sure you can hear me now. Is Mike okay? Can you put my slides up, please? Okay, since 1972, I've been one of the most active grassroots activists in the country. I have a very simple philosophy. It doesn't make sense to me that they can take L-carnitine, which is a U.S. dietary food supplement, and Health Canada has classified it for a number of years as a prescription drug. Now, does that make any sense to anybody in this room? That's something that's essential for good health, that's in baby food, that you can buy in a grocery store anywhere in the U.S., is now a prescription drug? It gets much worse. Natural progesterone cream. I want to tell you a story. In the spring of 1998, a world-renowned doctor who was using this cream to successfully assist women did a presentation in early '98 in Halifax. There were pharmacists in the crowd, just like there are pharmacists in this crowd today. And those pharmacists went to their local pharmacy association and complained about Dr. Lee and that he had this drug that he was using to unlawfully practice medicine to help women. What a terrible thing to do, right? No chemicals. You heard the True Hope story, who were also clients of mine, as was the Strauss Herb Company. Sean and I worked together on a number of those cases. I was the political lobbyist part that reopened the border to True Hope when they were closing down his shipments. I've been involved in 4 consecutive criminal cases, of which we've all won. So think of how crazy this is. This is a prescription drug. So the moving of our dietary food supplements from being in a food category under the legislation, which we stopped on July 1st in 1997. It was our groups, the Canadian Coalition for Health Freedom, which I'll go into more detail of, and Freedom of Choice in Healthcare, that combined resources to provide the lead to create the largest uprising in Canadian history in '96 and '97. And we stopped the July 1st, 1997 attempt to make all of these things into drugs. What they did is, as a result of a lawsuit that we filed on June 26, '97 through Freedom of Choice in Healthcare, we were able to stop it. Through our lawsuit and our political lobbying, they agreed to the interim order. Then they agreed to the standing committee. They agreed to meet with us. They lied to us. They betrayed us. They've double-crossed us. In 14 years, they've never done what they said they were going to do in any of the things we've dealt with it. So I'm going to speak today about the real problem is either we're owned by the government and the people who control the government, or the government is owned by us. You got to choose one door or another. You can't trust a judge. You can't trust a legal system. Sorry, most lawyers you can't trust because they're all parts of guilds. And the guild is only interested in enriching and controlling the individual guild's trade at the expense of all competitors. So you have the Bankers Guild joining forces with Big Pharma, with the doctors, with the lawyers, and with the politicians. And you have a society today where we do not have a democracy in Canada. We do not have rule of law. We don't even have a Supreme Court of Canada. The Supreme Court of Canada itself is a fraud. It was created by federal legislation in 1872. And it only has authority that was given to it under the British North American Act. The British North American Act made a corporation. The federal government is just a maze of sole and aggregate corporations, no different than IBM or any other corporation. So think of what we have. And you'll see this detailed in my presentation, which I'll go into shortly. So we have our employees working for our government corporations, being funded by us, destroying our choices and our freedoms on an increasingly terrible basis. The solution is to take back ownership of our system. Only way you can do that, there's only 3 choices. One is you must become active in your local riding, in organizations such as our two organizations. We train people. We need 3 people in each riding to lead the Freedom Cell. We become a better riding association than any of the 2 major political parties. And we support whichever party is going to support our freedom. And we've done this in most parts of Canada, but because I'm unilingual, my apologies, we haven't been able to do it in Quebec. I had a meeting in Ottawa. I go to Ottawa very regularly. I had a meeting with a local MP, who many of you know, Nicole Demers, who's the Bloc MP from Laval. She told me that they did not have any significant protest to the Bloc against Bill C-6. That is why they supported it. She chastised me for coming to Ottawa and not having all my literature in French, and said that basically without French protest to the Bloc on a provincial-wide basis, the Bloc did not know that there was any grassroots issue. So our ability to stop what's going on, we have to get that type of protest going on in Quebec. Now, I'll go through this briefly so you can see. You can see what our theme is. It's all about power to the people. And if you don't exercise and work with the power on a weekly and monthly basis, you do lose it to those that are better organized. It's a simple, practical aspect of life. Okay, I wanted to thank the hosts for organizing this. By the way, this is one of the most important events of this type that has happened in Canada. I've been involved since 1972 in freedom movements, and there's only been a few dozen meetings of more than 500 or 600 people in Canada. And I've got to tell you, I've been a speaker and involved in a number of them, and I am very impressed. This is the best organized freedom event that I've been involved in 14 years. Now, I haven't never used one of these before, so I guess I have to figure out how it works. Hopefully it works. Where is it? Oh, I see, I have to hold it. Okay, you can see the important things. I don't think I'm going to like it. Anyway, there's nothing more important than that people of values and principles join together. Many of us that have values and principles, our churches tell us we shouldn't be involved in politics. Our lives and our families dominate our time. We just don't have time. We think somehow or other somebody's going to look after it, but somebody doesn't. That somebody, it becomes the wrong people looking after our interests, and they're not there for our interests. So some of you know me and some of you don't, but I am the most active grassroots activist in the country. I have attended 5 Codex meetings. I have been to Bonn and Rome. I meet with U.S. senators. I give presentations in the U.S. And you'll see as we go through this, if I can get this to work right, my view of the government is very simple. I believe that God created us spiritual human beings as children of God. And that as children of God, we cannot and should not claim to be equal or greater than our Creator. That seems to be a very simple logic. Whether you believe in God or not is important for you for the protection of your individual and unalienable rights, freedoms, and liberties, that you understand fully what I am saying. The only sovereign, supreme entity, legal entity in the world is God. That's critical that you understand that, because what you have today, you have the British Parliament in the British system in the last 200 years has created what they call a custom claiming sovereign supremacy. So the politicians that are sitting in the Parliament in England actually think they have some power from God to make any legislation, which is just a lousy piece of paper that has been corruptly influenced by the wrong people with lies and cheating. So you have to understand that when you suffer, and we suffer, from laws that are made in the provincial or federal parliaments, the federal or provincial parliaments in Canada are coming from the fact that that parliament has sovereign supremacy. That is the number one issue we have. And the next sovereign supreme legal entity is you and I as the children of God. So we're number 2 in the hierarchy of power. So we own them, they don't own us. But you've got to learn how to exercise that right. You'll see that kings, queens, presidents, prime ministers, and Health Canada do not have sovereign supremacy over you and I. They don't have the right to do what they're doing. It doesn't matter. They can pass C6, they can do whatever they want. I am still selling L-carnitine openly on my retail and wholesale sites. I have learned, they've picked on me for 20 years for the practice of medicine.